Hello learners, welcome to Data Science for Beginners using AI Assistants, where we use AI assistant tools to learn data science. We begin with no prior data science experience and learn how to use AI assistant tools to learn data science. I'm Dr. Vishwas Kukreti and let's begin this journey. Before we start today's session, let's recap what we learned in previous sessions. In the previous sessions, we understood what is data science. Then we understood how is data science useful and its various applications in our daily life. Then we understood ChatGPT, which is our AI assistant tool. In that session, we also understood how we can produce Python code from ChatGPT. We also understood how we can use different prompting techniques to get the right answer out of our AI assistant tool. In this session, we'll start beginning with coding. So this session is titled First Steps in Coding, where theory meets implementation. The learning objectives for today's sessions are how to produce code from ChatGPT, understand what is Google Colab, how to run Python code in Google Colab, and how to use our AI assistant tool to debug code. If you remember yesterday's session, we were talking about a problem which Raju faced. Our person Raju wanted to analyze T sales. ChatGPT gave him a Python code. But the very practical question remains, where does he run this code and understand the output? This is a very serious limitation for our learners. Usually, learners across our country have either old computers or very basic smartphones. They are bounded and cannot install heavy softwares in their local system. Further, their devices have limited storage space, which makes it difficult to do data science. And this makes it a practical implementation challenge, which is why, because data science requires code execution environments. And traditional development environments demand significant computational resources and installation privileges. The infrastructure constraints in resource limited settings create accessibility barriers to understand and learn data science. Now, to answer this question, how we can overcome this practical implementation, we need a solution. And the solution is being presented in today's session. The solution is something called Google Colab. I'm sure all of you know what Google is. It's an AI giant which has multiple services across different domains. Google produces a software called Google Colab. Essentially, it's a free coding playground where you can write and run Python code. Consider it like Google Docs or a WordPad or a Notepad, but we use it for coding. It's just like Google Docs but for code. Now, let me explain what is Google Colab. So, a Google Colab is a cloud-based Python environment accessible via standard web browser. This means the entire installation of the Python software is not on your system but in a cloud computer. And you can access that cloud computer very easily using your standard web browser. That web browser could be your Google Chrome or your Firefox or any other standard web browser available to you. Further, it's a zero installation framework which eliminates local setup requirements. This means you do not need to worry about installing Python or its associated libraries to understand or run data science. It's a freemium model providing computational resources at no cost. As I had mentioned, one of the biggest barrier in learning data science is the availability of computational resources. Google Colab provides you a freemium model, which means it's free, but you can also pay for its services, and it provides computational resources, which is CPUs or GPUs at no cost or minimal cost. The only thing which you need to run Google Colab is your Google account. It's the only thing you require to run your Google Colab. Now, let's begin to understand Google Colab and open Google Colab in our web browser. So, the first step to open Google Colab is to open your web browser. In your web browser, you can type colab.research.google.com. Let me repeat the website link again. To open Colab in your web browser, you need to go to Colab, which is colab.research.google.com. And there you can sign in with your Gmail account. You can see on your screen, this is a typical welcome introductory screen of your Google Colab. It has different components, but worry not, we'll go over it and understand how we can use Google Colab to use and run data science problems. So let's see how we can sign into Google Colab. As you can see on your screen, there is a button on the right side of your screen. If you hit sign in, it will take you to a sign in window. This is the window where you need to input your Google account details. Once you put your Google account details, a Google Colab screen will open up. So you will see a welcome screen. In that welcome screen, there is a button which says click new notebook. If you hit that new notebook button, your coding space will open up. So the button new notebook is shown in the white box. If you hit this new notebook button, you will get a new Google Colab workspace. As you can see on the screen, this is how a typical Google Colab workspace screen looks like. There are different components. There is a place where you can input text. There is a sign in account. There is a button which says connect and different things. Since it's an introductory course, we will go through all of these things step by step. The first thing which you need to understand is called a cell. The text box kind of thing which you can see on your screen is called a cell. This is the place where you write down your code. Consider it a blank page for coding. This is where you will input your your Python code, which your AI assistant tool, which in our case is ChatGPT, will produce. So your first code with ChatGPT. Now let's understand how we can use Google Colab and ChatGPT to do data science. So let's begin with a first code with ChatGPT. So I ask you to open ChatGPT in another tab, open Google Colab in another tab, and both screens are available. I ask you to write Python code to print hello world. Copy the code which ChatGPT gives. So your first code with ChatGPT is very simple. It's a simple code, or what we're trying to do in Python is to write a program which should print hello world to your screen. As the tradition goes, printing hello world is the default way to begin understanding your Python programming languages. So let's ask ChatGPT how it can produce the Python code to print hello world to our screen. So you can see a ChatGPT screen visible on your window. The prompt says write a Python code to write hello world. And as you can see, it produces a single line script which says print hello world. Now what you need to do is to copy this code, and you can see there is a button which says copy code on your screen, on your ChatGPT screen. What I want you to do is to hit this copy code button and move to Google Colab. What we are going to do is paste this code in Colab cell. Now I want you to go back to your Colab tab, click inside the cell and paste the code. It's very simple. If you would see, we just copy the code from ChatGPT and paste it into a Google Colab cell. There is a play button which is called the run button next to your cell. You should use to run it you click it to run your code. The play button it will consecutively execute your code. You can have different cells in your Google Colab workspace, and you can hit the run button or the play button next to it to run those individual Python code snippets. Once you hit that Python code snippet, your first output will appear. The output will appear below the cell, and what is intended is you will see two words which are hello world. And if you get this world, congratulations, you have begun your journey to the Python world and you are coding. So let's quickly see how we can do that. So if you remember, we copied code from ChatGPT and then pasted it in our Colab cell. You might feel that it takes some time to load on your screen. This happens because Google Colab is allotting computational resource to your instance. In simple language, it means Google is allotting a CPU for you to run your data science project. And if you can see the similar output as I can, your code should produce hello world on your screen. And this is your first Python code, so you must be very happy and congratulations on your beginning first steps to coding. Now this is just the beginning on how you are starting coding. We should also understand what happened when we did the Control C plus Control V. To understand what happened, let's understand the code in the cell was processed by Colab. Again, Colab is a freemium computational resource provided by Google to you free of cost. The Colab processed the code which was in Python and produced an output. Now, I ask you to take your time to understand how easy it is to do data science given these tools. You do not need any fancy computational resources, you do not need any fancy laptops or systems, neither you need to learn the entire Python programming language to begin with data science. What you need to do or understand is your problem. So once you understand your problem, you can use your AI assistant tool to formulate or to transfer it into Python language. Once it's in your Python language, you can use to process it using Colab. If there are no errors in your code, Colab will produce an output. Right. This is the entire coding cycle which goes on while you're doing data science. And again, this is the entire flow most of the times you will be doing. So you go to ChatGPT, you formulate your problem, you ask your problem from ChatGPT, you prompt it so that it gives you the code in Python. You bring that code to Colab, run it, and you get the required output. However, you can also try something fun. Since print hello world is a pretty simple program, let's make it a bit interesting. And what we are going to do is we are going to ask ChatGPT to write a Python code to print my name 5 times. My name is XYZ. You can change XYZ with your name. So again, let me repeat the thing we are going to do. Now instead of printing hello world, we are going to print our name on the screen 5 times. Now consider, had it been, you could also say I could write print XYZ, XYZ, XYZ 5 times and run it, and then it would produce the similar output. So it would show print XYZ 5 times. However, I would ask the question, what if I want to print my name 100 times? Writing hello world, print hello world 100 times becomes time consuming and very difficult. So you need to understand the Python language also. Now, since what we are hinting at is we are going to understand and learn Python using the ChatGPT tools, this is where we really try to bring the fun of using ChatGPT to understand Python. If you have the Google Colab screen open, I ask you to visit on ChatGPT screen open. I ask you again to write the Python code. Ask ChatGPT to write Python code to print my name 5 times, and my name, like I'll say my name is Vishwas, so I can say my name is Vishwas. Once the code is generated, copy that code to Colab, click run, and let's see what happens. Right, so as you can see on my screen, I have pasted the prompt which says write my name 5 times and my name is Vishwas Kukreti. I give this prompt to ChatGPT, I wait for it to produce an output, and it produces a code. What I can do is to copy this code, and once I copy this code, I can bring it to Google Colab and paste it, and voila, we can see the name 5 times, right? But you would also see certain new syntax or words in your Python language. I would encourage you to learn Python step by step using ChatGPT because data science is totally dependent on learning Python. However, we are still believing that you can learn Python using ChatGPT itself while you're learning data science. So if you would see, there are some new words on the screen. For example, there is a for, there is a range, and there is a certain way to write this word. Now, it would be very difficult if you want to do data science without learning Python. So if you can learn Python side by side while learning data science, it will be very beneficial to you. But if you want to understand what this exact code snippet means, we can again the trick is to use ChatGPT, or which is our AI assistant tool. Now what we are going to do is ask our AI assistant tool to explain the code which it generated. And now, as we have mentioned, ChatGPT is an interesting software. It understands the context and the syntax which you are asking. Right? If you ask it and tell, I'm a beginner in Python, can you explain the code which you just produced? It will explain the Python code step by step to you. As you can see on your screen, it shows the code and then explains every word or the keyword which you can see on screen. For example, it tells you what does the exact for word is used. So it tells you it's a for loop. So we have loop means to repeat a thing n number of times. It tells you the keyword for is used to create a for loop, that is to repeat a process here 5 number of times. Then you can see different words, underscore, you can see a keyword called range, and you can see different explanation for that. Now how wonderful this is. You need not to go to your Python book and go through a different page to understand what ChatGPT means by what Python syntax means. All you need to do is be creative with your prompts. For example, we asked ChatGPT to explain the code and it did, and also it did step by step, which is very wonderful. So again, I would emphasize, use ChatGPT as your teacher, and if you do not understand anything, you can ask it to make it clearer and make much better for your understanding. You can, and we in the previous sessions we had also mentioned about prompting. For example, if you are not comfortable with English, you can also use ChatGPT and ask it to explain the code in Hindi or in your local language. ChatGPT understands different languages and it will respond in your preferred language. So again, understanding English is not a barrier to understand data science. The AI assistant tools make it very easy and democratic to learn data science. Now, there is a what if you get an error, right? It will be where you will get an error in your code, right? There will be some red text, some problems, some errors in your code. Even ChatGPT might produce wrong code, right? So even if you get an error in your code, the first step is to not panic. Again, as we have been mentioning, the trick is to use ChatGPT as your teacher or as your tutor. So what you should do is copy the error message, take the error message and paste it in ChatGPT and ask it to fix this error, right? You prompt it in the way you want it to fix the error. For example, if you can see on your screen, there is a code but it has an error and it does not produce the intended output. The error window says some kind of syntax error. So syntax is the way we write Python code. So it's the way we use for, I, range, or we give spaces in Python. Here Google Colab is suggesting there is some unexpected syntax or some unexpected parentheses in our code. So what are you going to do? Again, Google Colab is also pretty useful. As you can see on your screen, it also has a button which says explain error. If you hit this button, it will show you what is particularly difficult or the erroneous part in your code. Now, this also makes going to and fro from ChatGPT easier. For simpler errors, you can use Google Colab itself to explain the code, right? Again, you would see this code does not produce the output and there is an error here. So what are we going to do? Again, we are going to go back to ChatGPT, paste the code. So if you can see, the code is for underscore in range 5, print Vishwas Kukreti. And then I have pasted the error which says file, and there are some words after that. It says print Vishwas Kukreti, and the error which says syntax error unmatched parentheses. Now I request ChatGPT to fix this particular error, right? As you can see on my screen, again I'm prompting ChatGPT to run this code and understand this code, understand the error, and then debug this particular code. So you would see ChatGPT really understands the error. It tells you what the problem is. It tells you there was an unmatched parentheses in the syntax. So if you would see the code again, after the print statement there was one more parentheses which led to the error, which led to the code not compiling and threw an error. ChatGPT also tells you the problem and at the same time tells you the fix. It tells you to remove that unnecessary parentheses from your code. So if you remove that unnecessary parentheses from your code, the code will run fine. So what does ChatGPT do? ChatGPT helps you debug. ChatGPT read the error, explains what went wrong and gives you corrected code. Now, if you would see, this process would have taken you at least an hour had you relied on a Python notebook, because first you would have need to understood what you need to fix. Or if you were traversing through Google, through different internet forums which explain Python, you would need to go through different websites to understand what exactly was the error in your code. However, ChatGPT helps you to very succinctly explain and explains the error. It understands what the error was and then it gives you the corrected code itself. So this is the benefit of using an AI assistant tool in your data science journey. You're not constrained by resources. A freemium Python environment, Google Colab, plus a freemium large language model or your AI assistant tool ChatGPT is enough to propel you in the data science domain. Now let's get back to a problem. So we had to begin with Raju's problem and let's solve Raju's problem. So what was the Raju's problem? So as you can see on your screen, Raju sells different number of teacups on different days. On Monday, he sells 50 cups. On Tuesday, he sells 45. On Wednesday, he sells 70. On Thursday, 48. Friday, he sells 52. And Saturday, how much should he sell? Right. Now, the question is, how much milk should Raju store for Saturday? Now, if you would see, this is not an easy question. This is a very difficult question unless you have data for it. Now, let's see how we can use ChatGPT to understand this problem and what solution does ChatGPT provide for that. Again, the problem is how much milk should Raju store to sell how many cups. Now, if you would see on your screen, ChatGPT gives you a big text answer, right? It tells you it's not very easy to understand this problem because it's constrained by the amount of data it has. However, it still uses logic and tries to come to a solution. So the solution is how we can actually understand this problem. So it tells you that since it's very difficult to predict without much more data, we can rely on simple calculation, and that simple calculation here is average. It also tells you the things it is doing. So it tells you if we calculate the average of cups Raju sells, which is adding all the number of cups which Raju sells throughout the week from Monday to Friday, and then if we divide it by the number of days, which is from Monday to Friday, we should expect Raju to sell that much number of cups on Saturday. Now you see, data science is not just about writing Python code. It's also about using logic and to come a solution for your problem. ChatGPT helps you to understand the solution and come to an explanation. Now, however, if you would see, ChatGPT has not provided you a Python code here. It has provided you a logic though. So ChatGPT not only provides you logic, not only provides you Python code, it also provides you logic code to deduce your solution and to come to a solution. So the answer it says is an average number of cups which it uses for the entire weekdays, that many number of cups should be sold on Saturday, right? So if you would see, this is how things are using ChatGPT. However, we can also ask it to give the Python code, right? So if you want the Python code, you can ask it, you can input the number of cups in a list and ask to format it in the Python code. So again, the only trick which you are using here is to convert the logical solution into a Python programming language. You would see again, ChatGPT produces a Python code. It tells you the milk consumption and tells you the estimate for consumption of milk on Saturday. And it shows the formula also. Then it says print this many number of cups of milk is required, which is again the estimate which is required on Saturday, which is an average. So you can see on your screen, this is how the Python code goes, right? So we have the number of milk cups, we have a formula for the number of cups for Saturday, and it tells you this many cups would be required on Saturday. So it says milk is 54 cups. So this is the power of using ChatGPT with Colab. You can use ChatGPT to not only produce Python code but also to understand logic behind problems. As we could see, our problem was not well defined. What ChatGPT did was said that it's difficult to understand this problem, but however it took a shot, right, and it gave us an average. So we need to understand average, what average is, right, which we will be doing in our next sessions. So once we do it, we can also ask for explanation. So it also tells you the different, like in the same like we understood the for code, we can also understand this particular code. It tells you the keyword sum. What is sum? What does len? And what does division by them does? So why this method works, right? So let's understand why this method is so useful and why we should use this. So the AI writes the code. Consider it like a teacher, right? So the AI is much more knowledgeable and understands the problem much better than a novice beginning in the domain of data science. However, you run and learn the code, which is equivalent to hands-on practice. This removes the need for memorizing syntax. If there are an error, you can again ask ChatGPT to debug that error. You can also ask ChatGPT to explain the code. So we can see how we can use ChatGPT for our data science journey and run the code in Google Colab. Now again, I would leave you with tips for success. So do not start with very difficult problems. Start with simple one-line codes. Run your code immediately after pasting and you experiment freely. You're not breaking anything. Your computer is going to be safe. So practice question, use ChatGPT to write a Python code to print first 5 odd numbers. I'll leave you with this problem. I expect you to use this problem and solve it using ChatGPT and paste the code in Colab to run it. We will meet again. Thank you.